Dr. Robert DeMaria, also known as Dr. Bob, is a very engaging health educator. Today, Dr. Bob will outline how the liver affects your overall well-being, including some surprising news that will forever change the way you view hemorrhoids, plus a warning about varicose veins. In addition, having 2 or more kids will place an extra burden on your liver. So Dr. Bob explains what matters most for mothers and exactly what they need to know. And finally, if your gallbladder has been removed, you'll want to hear this essential news about what to do for the rest of your life. Bob, thank you very much for being with us today. I really do appreciate it. You know, before we get into the liver, we've got amazing things to cover. We've been talking off camera, and I can't wait to have our conversation. But, you know, you've been around the block a little bit for a few years. Why don't you tell us, how you got started?
Well, I started practicing in 1978, before it was even popular to even think of the word natural or wellness doctor. You just kind of hid, and you had people come in and they started asking you questions, and you did your very best to answer them. And, we didn't really worry about ruffling feathers, but so much has changed over the years. Like, we never really had easy access to blood chemistries. Like today, we have there's companies all over the United States that you can send people in for requisitions. You can have conversation with people. People are really well educated today. The internet has changed everything.
So I think probably the best way to get started, Bob, is talk about first where the liver is located. Let's start there.
Well, the liver is located right here in this aspect of your body, right below. It's right inside the ribs. You don't want your liver to go past that bottom rib on the right side. So if it goes past that, and if it continues to grow, I have seen livers grow or expand all the way into a person's pelvis. And do you know that somebody could have an enlarged liver that causes their pelvis to shift? They could have chronic low back pain, even get low back surgery. I'm chuckling because I've seen this happen because of their liver expanding.
Yeah, it's incredible what you just described about how there's that referred pain. How many times do people feel like their shoulder or their knee? We were talking about that too. And, they could swear something's wrong in that spot, but really they're not thinking about the liver at all.
Well, actually, what it is the liver creates bile, and it's a reservoir in the gallbladder. So the gallbladder, which is all part of that whole mechanism, but it is 2 entities. A gallbladder distress will cause right shoulder pain and right knee pain via traditional Chinese medicine meridians. So I'll have people come in and they'll have right knee pain, start chit-chatting a little bit, start asking them if fatty foods bother them. And you can tell by looking at them they have a gallbladder issue, but you have to tap dance around it. You just can't come out and say, hey, this is going on inside of your body.
Yeah, and also it's really important what you're bringing out, especially if someone's saying, well, I don't understand. Why is my shoulder bothering my knee? You're asking them if they're going to the gym. Do they exercise? Do they very physical activity? And they're looking at you like you're a Martian. I'm fine. I'm just sitting around. There's no problem. Why does it hurt so much? That would probably be you're really leaning towards maybe it's an organ problem.
Well, we kind of preface with our patients when they come to see us, hey, Jonathan, I'm going to ask you some questions. They might not seem to make sense, but I'll go back and tell you the why. So if somebody's going to the gym and their knee hurts, then I start asking them other questions like, are certain foods bothering you, creating digestive distress? And you're really working it to find out exactly what's going on inside of them.
And that's why, Bob, I say it all the time with all the programs I've created over the years. It's so important that you work with someone who appreciates what you're talking about. Listen, we got the model here. Why don't you break down a little bit more what's going on? On the outside of the liver, you've got different colors going on there, different shapes and sizes to it, and the inside as well. Talk to us about it.
Well, this is essentially a normal liver. We don't see a whole lot of those anymore. This is a fatty liver. We see a lot of increased sized livers. And, they might not all be necessarily fatty, so that can be a term that it's like a blanket for everything. We'd like to call them enlarged livers. This is cirrhosis of the liver, common from use of alcohol. This could be considered a tumor, maybe even a hemangioma. hemangioma being more of a blood type of tumor. But this, I think, is really significant for your audience to see.
Let me see it here.
The liver makes bile. It's constantly making bile. Bile is stored in the gallbladder. Liver makes bile, stored in the gallbladder. That's really very significant. The blood flows through your legs up through, this is always a test question on national boards, by the way, inferior vena cava. Don't ever ask me where they come up with these terms. And then it goes out, up to your heart. So I know we're not talking about heart today, but you could actually have heart distress because of a compromised or congested liver, just as you could have varicose veins, spider veins, and hemorrhoids. Do you know how many people who are probably watching us right now have had their veins laser fixed, whatever that means? Or my mom had her veins stripped back in the 1960s, where they actually cut slices and did that. My mom had a large liver, and I learned that when I was going to school and I started doing testing on her. My mom didn't even drink alcohol. Do you know what my mom did? She had fruit, lots of fruit. People, if I go to a picnic or you had invited me over to your house and your lovely wife would have a wonderful dinner and then she'd bring out a bowl of fruit afterwards for dessert, because I think that's what Dr. Bob eats, and I would just say, no thank you. I don't say I don't eat fruit after a meal, but what it does, it ferments, literally will create alcohol, causes a demand on the size of the liver.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people, what you were saying about spider veins and these procedures, you see the ads all over the place and everything about anti-aging. Nobody is saying, for the most part, that it's a connection to the liver. And what about all those conventionally trained cardiologists out there? I mean, I'm saying it with all due respect. What a great opportunity this is for them to hear this message, and especially for the people out there as patients or potential patients, God forbid, knowing that something's wrong with my heart, maybe I ought to look at my liver?
So if somebody's having some heart, let's just paint this picture. If your right shoulder hurts, if you have some right knee pain, if you have varicose veins and spider veins, because you're going to know that. Most women get hemorrhoids after the baby number 2. So I see most liver, gallbladder challenges after a woman has baby number 2. You say, okay, why is that? Well, baby number 1 places a demand on the mom's liver. The liver is the filter. So the mom can usually handle baby number 1, but if you have a baby, soon afterwards or a year or 2, and you haven't given this thing a chance to rest because you went back to drinking your glass of wine every night, now it's 2 glasses because the baby's up, so it's placing a demand. And then, you have some of your girlfriends that are juicing. Like, we don't promote juicing because it places a demand on the liver. We want people to eat food. So probably the best food to help thin the bile is the apple. The apple will help thin bile. I eat a half a red apple every day. That's the only fruit I eat. I'd rather have you eat it all. Why don't you eat the apple, eat the celery, eat the carrots? That's what I eat. That's my diet. I eat plants.
That was my second question too I'd like you to speak to. This idea of blending fiber and sugar stuff like in an apple to eat it. Obviously very different than juicing an apple. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is. Because what's happening, you're taking away the fiber and you have it's glucose. It's fructose. Fructose will place a demand on the liver. And that's what it comes down to. So I would rather have someone saute some kale, some onions and mushrooms, but you don't ever want to eat any fruit at the end of a meal. You see, in the body we have layers, okay? If you put fruit on the top of food, it's going to ferment. When protein's not working really well in the body, it'll putrefy. And when you have a bad fat metabolism, it becomes rancid. So somebody could be watching us right now and they have foul-smelling stool. That's because there's something going on in their colon. So if somebody wants to say, okay, so then what would you do if you were me, Dr. Bob? It's pretty simple. I like to call it Dr. Bob's ABCs. It's a half a red apple every day. It's beet fiber. Somebody said to me, well, what's beet fiber? Well, beet fiber is like beets. And then a medium carrot. So what's interesting about the liver is, let's say you have little floaters in front of your eyes. They're called vitreous floaters. if the vitreous floater is caused by lack of vitamin A, a medium carrot per day within 2 months, that floater will go away. Now, if you juice the carrot, will it make a difference? I don't know, because I always tell everybody to eat the medium carrot, because I look at blood sugar too. So we know we do blood chemistries also. So it's a half an apple, beet fiber, medium carrot. So I added something in, it's going to be Dr. Bob's ABCR. So what's R? R is radish. I eat 2 radishes every day. So I have a Doctor of Natural Health degree. And in my studies, I had a class on herbs. The radish is a bitter herb. You've heard the term, people watching this right now have heard the term bitters. Bitters place a demand on the liver gallbladder. So a radish is a bitter herb. You know, you have dandelion, you have peppermint. You know, the craziest thing, I'm kind of chuckling because I said this to one of my patients yesterday, just go out to your farm and eat some dandelion. Oh man, I have a lot of dandelion. And I had another patient that came and was doing some fishing where we live. And back when I was a kid, we used to go night crawler hunting. Night crawlers, you know, then you go fishing. Guess what? People don't go night crawler hunting anymore. Do you know why? Because of all the chemicals we sprayed on the grass. So we don't have a clue what really is going on inside of the body. So Dr. Bob's ABC, throw a radish. Let me just throw out the foods that will, if you have this food issue, if cucumbers bother you, I love cucumbers, I eat them every day. If green peppers bother you, if onions bother you, you can say, what do you mean bother? Well, in Italian, we say agita. Agita is digestive distress. So if you eat foods that cause digestive distress, it's not the food, it's you. Because your body has to process all of that, and it's placing a demand. So the radish is saying, come on, liver, let's get going, let's get going, let's get going. And the liver's saying, hey, leave me alone. I have to rest.
Show us a little bit more about inside the liver, the gallbladder, and talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so the gallbladder is a reservoir of bile. Your liver is constantly making bile, and the bile is secreted a little extra when you probably ate some fat or any kind of fatty food, even if an avocado, any kind of oil, will say gallbladder has to release the bile to emulsify it. Let me give you a story. Let's say that you're at home and you're going to be having some chicken, all right? So you're helping your wife and you're prepping the chicken in the kitchen. You go to wash your hands and you wash it with some water and nothing happens. Then you go and you get some dish detergent. You put the dish detergent on your hand and it emulsifies the fat. Well, the gallbladder, being a reservoir of bile or dish detergent, is necessary to metabolize fat in the body. And if the liver gallbladder mechanism is not functioning optimally, especially the gallbladder, somebody could have a bitter metal taste in their mouth. You say, like, what do you mean? So if you came into my office and I say, hey, Jonathan, do you ever taste pennies in your mouth? And you go home with your wife, he was asking me if my mouth tastes like pennies. Well, a bitter metal taste, so these are for all the people watching us right now. Do you have that? It could be a body signal for gallbladder distress. Traditionally, what I have learned in my practice, women tend to have more gallbladder distress than men, and that's because women have babies. And as I mentioned to you before, baby number 1 will place some, but baby number 2 places a larger demand. Most women, from my experience, will have their gallbladder out after baby number 2. Now, other lady body signals that I see if they come into the office, and I'll say, hey, Helene, do you have tender breasts with your menses? Do you have heavy menstrual flow? Do you have hemorrhoids? Well, tender breast and heavy menses is a body signal the liver's not processing the estrogen. So your liver has to process estrogen. If a woman comes in, bitter metal taste in her mouth, right shoulder pain, right knee pain, these are all telling me that you're having some distress going on inside of your body.
What do you say to people out there who might be flipping out at this point because they don't have a gallbladder, got removed? Is all hope lost?
Well, not, because they were watching this program. So the gallbladder has, and it's a reservoir of bile. So in our practice, we use something that's sourced from bovine bile. It's a bile salt. So we actually have our practice members do 3 things. We have them take a product that we use in our practice, or I'm sure they could buy it most places. It's bovine bile. You take one with every meal. We also encourage the half an apple every day, but there's something called taurine. Taurine helps thin bile. We also use a liver herb, like you could use milk thistle or silymarin, because that's going to help support the liver function. You might want to use dandelion root. There's companies that sell it in a liquid, or dandelion greens if you don't have chemicals on your yard. And parsley is good, and so is peppermint. Peppermint's really good for the liver gallbladder. So if you had your gallbladder out, if you really want to be wise, you want to start adding some bile to your diet. Because what I have noticed physiologically, if you want to take this to a whole nother layer, is...
Before you actually get into that, Bob, so in case people missed it, talk again, though, about the whole point of bile and the gallbladder, what it's for, so people don't miss that, and then you can go into what you're about to say.
So the bile is a part of the whole emulsification. If you lose the emulsification, this can be a bold statement, you have a greater chance to have heart distress, and you have a greater chance to have cancer. You say, why? Well, because of everything that I do in my practice, from breast thermography to labs to films, everything comes down to this. Everything comes up and everything goes down through this. The liver is the key to all of it. So if you had your gallbladder out, you don't have to, but you'd be wise. It's kind of like insurance. You'd be better off to buy a bile than you would be to be paying for your insurances, okay? You know, there's something else that you could do. You could do the castor oil pack. The castor oil pack is an old Edgar Cayce type of a technique way back in the 1950s. We use a ton of it in our practice. It's pretty simple. You put castor oil on wool flannel, not any that's been chlorinated, it's brown flannel, and you place that on your liver, and you put some heating pad on top of it for about 45 minutes. So I have to tell you a story. So my wife and I got married when we were 21. And back in the day, she went on the pill for about 6 years. Went off the pill, had baby number 1, no more pill. 3 years later, had baby number 2. Wife went in like everybody else. The medical model said, well, my wife had dysplasia on her cervix. This is back in the late 80s. That is when we changed our life. My wife actually did the castor oil pack every day for a year. You can say, why did she do that? Well, I didn't also tell you that my wife took her well-meaning aunt was the wife of a medical doctor, gave her a drug called acromycin V in suspension for acne. So my wife took that, then she took the pill. You know, we probably drank a little alcohol, but we're not big. But that altered her female hormones. So women that are on the pill right now, and all of this, the liver has to process it. I'm going to tell you something else. This is going to sound really, but I've learned this through our breast thermography. Even IUDs that have estrogen on them will place a demand on the liver. And we see that through breast thermography. Take an IUD out, estrogen in the body will go down, less of a demand on the liver. And even teenage girls. We had some teenage girls come into our office, 3 of them all in a row, all had livers massively expanded. They all love fruit, but they're high hormones. They're 14, 15 years old. Their estrogen was going a million miles an hour. They were eating soy. Everything that they were doing was wrong, placing a demand on their liver. Liver expanded. We're in the hospital for 3 weeks. Couldn't figure out what's going on.
Bob, such great stuff. Let's continue this conversation a little bit more about how the liver's impacting the heart, which I think got a lot of people's attention, but even other areas of the body too.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. Do you know how many gallbladders are removed every year in America? 500,000. And it's interesting because I actually had people bring in the receipts. I've seen it as low as 23 and as high as 40,000. 500,000 gallbladders. So back in the day, whenever the day was, back in the 70s and the 80s, when you go to a swimming pool, you see this big old slice along these people's abdomen. When they used to take the gallbladder out, it was a major surgery. Well, they used to sew it, they slice them open, sew it up, and put it back together. It was around the early 1990s in my office. People started coming in, and I saw these little white clips on the right side of their abdomen. And I thought, wow, what is that? You know, that was like new to me. Well, those were the clips that they used for the gallbladder surgery. And so I had a couple people come in. Then I started seeing the next pattern that people were coming in. Not only did they have the clips, They had that quote-unquote chicken wire on their chest where they broke open their chest for open heart surgery. So I started to piece together. These people are getting their gallbladders out. We already talked about the bile and being emulsified. Their blood vessels are starting to accumulate fat. Bam, they start having heart distress. So you don't see that too much anymore because they don't open people up like they used to. They use stents. So they go in through their veins and all that, so they don't have the major surgical type of intervention. So then I started noticing another pattern. The lumbar vertebra associated with that clip area, L1 and L2, 80% of the time, those vertebrae were twisting or rotating left. So I had, let's say that you came into my office and I did a diet on you and we are talking and you had all those body signals that I talked about and your L1 and L2 were twisting to the left. I'd sit you down and say, you know what, Jonathan, I got something I need to tell you. And I'd be doing you a disfavor if I didn't share this with you right now. If you keep on going the direction you're going, you have potential to have your gallbladder out. And you look at me like, why? And I would just tell everything I just did. So, we were talking about, we can see the liver gallbladder shrink. Well, this was amazing. So I had these people come in and their gallbladders or the livers were really big. You can see where they had their gallbladder out. So I put them on a protocol, had them change their diet. Are you ready for this? Chill bump city. I seen those clips move right back up to where they're supposed to go. You can say, how do they move back up? The liver shrunk. Well, the liver didn't shrink. I mean, if you're eating a bag of this and that, and it's caused your liver to grow, if you take it away for a period of time, it can go back to normal. So I think the good news for everybody is it can reverse itself. Now, we can't give you gallbladder back, but you could easily buy some bovine bile. I mean, go spend $12 on some bovine bile. Isn't that great?
It is. It's incredible information. You're talking about how all these people who still now, even though they're getting stents, they're not cracking open the chest, their arteries are clogging up. And you're saying this all, again, is flowing back, no pun intended, to what's going on with the liver and the gallbladder. It's amazing.
You can take it a step further. It's a part of the whole inflammation? Is it a part of our dementia and our Alzheimer's? Of course it is, because it's inflammation. You need to have everything has to be broken down. So, just to kind of repeat myself, if you have digestive distress with green peppers, onions, cucumbers, radishes, if those foods bother you, if you have a metal taste in your mouth, sometimes you have this queasy feeling on the top of your head where you maybe have some discomfort there, these are all points associated with that. If your right knee bothers you, it's possible you could have some gallbladder distress, especially if you had 2 kids.
Some people have talked already on our program about intermittent fasting, and I know you have your own perspective, so let's get into that a little bit.
Well, you know what? Your body needs fuel. So let's say I was going to go on a trip. If I didn't put the gas in my car, I couldn't go on the trip. So your liver can store food, glycogen for 24 hours. So usually with that whole intermittent fasting, your bodies could use those liver stores. But it's very possible that your body could literally start burning your own muscle. And so if it's burning your own muscle, your body needs fuel. So I would rather have people eat non-starchy green vegetables consistent. It's kind of like it's not a ketone diet, because see, the whole ketone diet is you don't want your insulin to be spiking. But if you can keep your blood sugar consistent, giving your digestive system a rest, people run into trouble, I think, when they get done with the intermittent fasting. It's like, okay, so what are you eating after your fast? I don't hear people really talking about that. Do they go back to their old lifestyle? I'd rather have you come into my office every day, eat the same non-starchy green vegetable mid-glycemic diet, not putting any demand on any particular part of your body. If you're going to be doing any kind of a long-term cleanse, you want to give your digestive system a rest. You know, I have people that'll do intermittent fasting for the afternoon. It's like, I'm not sure that's really a good idea. We might go 3 days, but, you know, I would rather have people eat non-starchy green vegetables.
Yeah, and I think in all fairness, what they also refer to that can be quite helpful for people, I'm sure you probably agree with this, is in the context of someone very heavy with chronic fatigue, having issues, and they've been eating all kinds of fast food or eating just in a very chaotic way. all of a sudden, if they make a disciplined approach to, say, eating their dinner at 6, 7 at night, and then not eating again until, say, I don't know, 11, 12 the next day, there's that intermittent fast. And those people that I just described tend to say that they feel so much better. There's a good reason for that, right?
I would say that those people have a real purpose, but the average person is trying. You know what, Jonathan? I have people that will run to eat ice cream. So I have this little funny rule about myself. If I see somebody jogging and they're not happy, they're running because they just had an ice cream cone. Just throwing that out. Happy runners, they blend everything. And then when somebody passes on and they were told that they were healthy, they ran every day, I would like to have followed around to see what they really were eating. So you have to look at the whole picture.
So Bob, in talking about detoxification, I want to get your thoughts on this. We've had many of the experts talking about how, of course, detoxification is very important, but you got to be careful pushing out all these toxins out of the tissues, out of the organs. But you've got a lot of people out there with blood sugar issues, their high blood pressure, heart palpitations, they've got heart concerns, cancer concerns, heavy metal toxicity. There's all kinds of issues in these people in different health states. You've got to make sure that when you detoxify, you're eliminating as well. So give us your take on what you feel about detoxification and its importance.
Yeah, it's really an interesting point because someone could have consumed a lot of toxic food and they have this large pendulous abdomen. Well, that abdomen is visceral fat. And your body could literally make like a layer of a year or two that you were doing this or that. Your body has to get rid of that. So what you said is absolutely spot on. You have to make sure you're pooping every day. People should poop twice a day, not once every 2 days. 3 is even better, but you don't want to do just a one banger. You want at least 2 poops every day. So if you're not pooping, you better be really careful about what you're doing. And as a side note, if somebody has subpar thyroid function, they might not have regular bowel movements. So you're going to want to have an evaluation done to make sure that your thyroid gland is functioning. When I say that, you want your TSH, Tom, Sam, Harry, it's thyroid stimulating hormone, T3 and T4. If those numbers are low, before you start detoxing, you want to make sure your thyroid is going well on its own. And then the next thing you want to make sure that you're doing is you're drinking water. When I'm talking about water, I'm talking about pure water, not necessarily tap water, not any water that's been modified, not alkaline water. I want you to just drink pure water. That's really getting your body used to getting ready. And then you're going to want to slowly make some decisions to get off of your addictive food like sugar and chocolate, because see, chocolate places demand in that liver also. So I personally don't detox. I eat a detox lifestyle. So I don't consume alcohol, I don't consume sugar, I don't take any kind of drugs or medication, I don't drink alcohol. I primarily eat organic vegetables, organic meat, and I drink pure water. Now, if there's somebody out there that we just talked about, diabetic, and having all this pain, I would definitely suggest they get an OptiChem profile, a basic panel. You might want to do something called a CBC with a differential, and you want to go to a skilled practitioner to make sure that you know what's going on, because these people are doing this 24, 36, 40-hour fast, and they're slamming their body with some herbs that are causing their stool to become really loose, and they're irritating their colon. What you have to think about is not the now. What's going to happen in a week from now? I'd much rather have you get a kale salad every day with some sauteed mushrooms and onions and just let your body just do what it needs to do naturally, and it becomes your lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's important. What you're talking about is just slow and steady wins the race. So too many people are in a rush. I think it's that Western mentality. Hey, I'm going to do something. It's going to purge all this stuff. But you got to be very careful because you really could cause yourself harm.
Yes, just like the people with the keto diet, I have had people have had major, major challenges on their heart. Somebody was even in the hospital. I didn't even know that they were doing this keto diet, and they just put too much fat. They're placing too much of a demand. I think we have some of these diet challenges today. You got to keep it simple. It's vegetables and protein.
People want to know, how do we know if there's a liver problem, right? They're going to be wondering out there, how can we check this out? Can we talk about it first without all the fancy testing? Go over that a little bit more now to be really clear for those people who are concerned that maybe their health problems, you've mentioned heart issues, thyroid, definitely connected to the liver, leg issues, knee pain, shoulder pain, orthopedic problems. You talked about all these different things so connected to the liver. How can the average person out there maybe get a handle on this? Like, wow, wait, maybe I really should look at this more carefully.
Okay, so first, go back to find out where were you at in your birth order. If you're the second child, statistically you have a greater chance, more of a challenge than baby number one. That's first. For the ladies, young ladies, depending on when do they start their menstrual cycle and were their breasts tender. Tender breasts tell me that their liver is not processing estrogen. I think that's really significant. And then after someone has a child or an adult, do you have varicose veins, do you have spider veins, or hemorrhoids? Another area that I think is quite significant today are what I call cherry hemangiomas. They're little red dots on your body. These red dots, from my observation, usually is a body signal that your liver is not processing estrogen as well as it could be. If you have the body signal of a metal taste in your mouth, or if you have, there's two types of digestive distress. So if you have digestive distress right after eating, that's a digestive enzyme need. If you have digestive distress 2 hours later and it's bloating, that's liver gallbladder. That's how I differentiate the two of them. So just knowing just a few of those body signals. If you have a history of acne, we know that your liver is an issue. I notice more people today have little brown spots on their body, brown nevi, especially young kids. Those are body signals to me that their livers are not functioning as well as they could. And then if you really want to go on the wild side when they're done, make sure you watch this till you're done. Go in the mirror and look at your pupils and look around your pupil. And if you see a little brown ring, everybody's running right now, not yet. Chances are that's iridology. It could be some liver gallbladder distress.
Everything that you're saying right now, I'm going to put it really simply, get your feedback on it. It just seems like everything you're talking about when it comes to the liver not doing well is stagnation. It's so simple.
Yeah, it is. You know, the liver's responsibility, it has lots of responsibilities, by the way, but one of the main ones is just to process all this stuff. It's to neutralize everything. But just to change subjects a little bit, I would focus on sulfur-based foods because your liver loves sulfur. Eggs, onion, garlic, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower. Those are really important foods to help support your liver because your liver needs to have something to attach to. You want to make sure you're drinking enough water to help cleanse the whole thing. You know, and even you could start your day off with a glass of warm water and get a wedge of lemon. I don't promote a lot of citrus, but if you got an organic lemon, cut it into a fourth, squeeze the lemon in the warm water, drink the water, eat the lemon pulp. That just kind of stimulates your whole liver gallbladder mechanism. If you want to go on the wild side, you can throw a little bit of parsley with that because the kidneys love parsley. The liver gallbladder loop love to have the lemon, and you do Dr. Bob's ABCs, half a red apple. Let me backtrack a little bit because I keep on talking about the half a red. I did not say green. I said a half a red.
Yeah, what's wrong with the Granny Smith apple? You don't like it?
Well, there's nothing wrong with any food, but Granny Smith tend to stagnate digestion. They're sour.
So again, all of this is about getting the body moving. I love what you said about elimination as well. But it's so important to not have people too fixated on just their liver. If now they're freaking out listening to you, that they think there's a liver problem. Really, you're talking about eating these great foods, maybe talk about some of the nutrients as well, some of the supplements that you like, what elements do you like that people take into their body. The idea is to attach to toxins, to keep themselves well hydrated, to keep the body moving. Because if the body processes are not moving in speed of light, that's when it seems like we're having all these problems with organ failure, literally.
You're absolutely spot on. I have to throw out some more body signals. So we talked about thyroid. So how do you know if you have a low thyroid? So this is cold hands, cold feet, wide spaced teeth, morning headache, possibly some depression, coarse thin hair. All you have to do is a class on coarse thin or on thin hair. It's really an issue in America today. It is all thyroid. Now I can really stretch you a little bit. We have a major, major problem in our society today. So, scurvy, lack of vitamin C. Between 1750 and 1850, half transoceanic voyages left London, never came back, died of scurvy. We have a modern day scurvy, from my observation. It's lack of iodine. I talk about that in my office. I talk about that in the books that I have personally written. Here's the issue. We already don't have enough iodine in our diet. But the real challenge is that most people watching us today took a shower or a bath the last 24 to 48 hours and they breathed in chlorine or they had bromine in their hot tub and they brushed their teeth with fluoride. Those are halides. Bromine, fluorine, and chlorine antagonize iodine. Your thyroid needs iodine. If it doesn't have enough iodine, it's not going to function better. Then we could take it even a stretch further. Women's breasts need iodine, women's ovaries need iodine, and your and my prostate need iodine. You say, Dr. Bob, like, what kind of rabbit trail is this? No, it's all part of the whole thing. If you don't have enough iodine and your thyroid's not up to par, you're not going to poop. You're having cold hands and cold feet. So if you came in my office on Saturday and asking all these questions, we have to fix everything. It's just not one thing. You have to fix it all.
Yeah, and as you're describing millions of people out there, the cold hands, the cold feet, the sluggishness, the brain fog. That's why I said at the beginning for this event, when I wanted people to join this, looking at, I think it's conservative, over 100 million people in the United States alone dealing with some sort of liver issue. I wanted to highlight all of this. Here's an organ you have to pay more respect to, but then, of course, as a bigger picture, take better care of your body so that things work out better.
Pretty interesting, isn't it? It's a big puzzle, and we get to be the puzzle solvers.
Bob, I don't usually say this. You're simply amazing. I really appreciate all the information that you've given us. You've given a lot of info for people to think about here. You really painted this big picture, but as we wrap things up, just give us this once through of one thing that someone can do now if they're really concerned now about their liver health, they want to turn things around. What would you say to these people, especially those beginners out there?
The good news is it all can be reversed. And I've seen that because we take films standing up with digital x-ray. So I've seen livers shrink. So I know what I'm saying to you. It really does work. So number one you're going to want to start with is the ABCs. It's that simple. A half a red apple every day. So you didn't ask me yet how come it's not a whole one. It's a half a one because a whole apple is 22 grams of carbs. So you can share the other half where you save it for the next day. The beet fiber is going to help lower your cholesterol up to 40%, by the way. You can lower your cholesterol. Now, I have to clarify that just a bit because cholesterol can elevate because of stress or diet. So as a little footnote here, if your cholesterol is elevated and your triglycerides, which are blood fats, are elevated, that's because you've been eating too many carbs. Just sugar and trans fat and junk.
And also the toxicity, if you don't mind me interrupting. I've also heard so much, and it's so enlightening to see that if toxicity is high, cholesterol might be coming in to sort of help protect the body. So the idea is to do the obvious things of getting away from toxicity, but go ahead, finish up.
And the other one is if your cholesterol is high and your triglycerides are normal, that's stress. Most people have high cholesterol today because of stress. It's not even diet. That's really significant, by the way. And then you can, of course, you do the Dr. Bob's carrot, and then you throw the radish. If you just started with just that, started drinking water from a pure source, and then, this is going to sound kind of interesting, minimize slowly anything artificial. Even these sugar-free foods that have sorbitol in it, mannitol and xylitol, your liver has to clear all of the OLs. Those are sugar alcohols. So you want to start eating the food that you are making, because anytime you go to a fast food or a franchise restaurant, there's lots of chemicals in there, and your liver has to process it. So that's simply that. ABCs, drink some water, and exercise every day. I exercise a minimum of an hour a day. Go for a half-hour walk every day.
It really isn't a cliche. Everything we've discussed here is about lifestyle, lifestyle, lifestyle. But you really gave us very specific things that, for me at least personally, have really motivated me to keep up with a healthy lifestyle. Bob, thank you very much.
You are so welcome.
I hope you enjoyed the first day of the Fatty Liver DocuClass. We've got so much more to offer you, so get ready. Day 2 is coming up. Talk to you soon. Take care.